Thank you for subscribing to One Mind Dharma's guided meditations. To learn more about us, you can visit www.oneminddharma.com. This podcast is offered freely, and we appreciate the support of the community in keeping this podcast going. To find out more about supporting us, you can visit omdharma.com/help or email us at info@oneminddharma.com to learn about sponsoring this podcast. Today we're going to do a practice using the body and diving into really the first three foundations of mindfulness, using the body as the jumping off point. So you can allow the eyes to close, settle into what feels like a comfortable and sustainable posture. And if it's more comfortable for you to leave the eyes open, that's absolutely all right. Maybe leaving them at a soft gaze on the floor. Although in this tradition we sit with the eyes closed often, there are many meditation traditions where people sit with the eyes open. So finding what works for you. And as you settle into this present time experience, you can start with the posture of the body, just tuning into how the body is sitting, making any minor adjustments that need to be made. Maybe reaching the spine up a little bit. Maybe relaxing the shoulders. I like to use the breath to aid in this process, breathing in a sense of alertness or energy, reaching the body up. And as I exhale, I just let go. So you can try this, breathing in some awareness, some alertness. And as you exhale, letting go both physically and emotionally, letting the shoulders drop a little bit with each exhale, leaving all the problems and worries be for now. Don't need to push away any thoughts, but just leaving them where they are. And we'll start with a few minutes of concentration practice, an accounting exercise that we often do. So you can choose a spot in the body where you can feel the body breathing. Could be the chest or the abdomen, the tip of the nose. Picking a spot that feels right to you in this moment and sticking with it for the remainder of this practice. And see if you can just let the body breathe itself. So often when we look at the breath, we jump in a little bit and try to take control. Trying as much as you can to allow the body to do the breathing for you, letting the body breathe naturally. Your job isn't to make the breath any certain way, but to rest in the present time experience of breathing. And we'll use this counting exercise that we often offer in our meditations and podcasts. It can be helpful to keep our attention on the breath. So as you exhale, counting 1, inhaling, and as you exhale, counting 2. Just silently in your head like this, counting up to 8, then starting back at 1. Using the numbers not as a competition or a measure of how good of a meditator you are, but as a tool, a way to notice when the mind's wandered, when we've forgotten what number we're on, when we go onto autopilot and go up past 8. When the mind wanders, gets lost in another experience or thought, Remembering that there's absolutely nothing wrong with coming back to one. That is the practice of building concentration and cultivating mindfulness, noticing when the mind's wandered and coming back. So, just like this, resting with the breath, counting up to 8 and starting back at 1 when the mind wanders, being willing to start over. And we're just resting our awareness gently on the breath. The intention here is to cultivate this ability to be with one object for some time. And maybe the mind's wandering quite a bit. Maybe it's rather focused. Really taking this attitude of no praise or no blame. It's not your fault. Sometimes the mind does its own thing, subject to the causes and conditions of what time of day it is and what we ate today and how much we slept. Really, what is in our control is how we respond when the mind wanders. Every time the mind jumps off into something else, we have an opportunity to build mindfulness and concentration by noticing that it's wandered and bringing it back. Can radically shift your practice by seeing the mind wandering as an opportunity, not as a problem or a hindrance. Coming back to that number one and tuning into the inhale, the exhale, the space in between, with some continuity, staying with the breath, with this gentle openness. And we'll open up into a mindfulness of body practice. Just noticing where in the body you're having any experience. It could be the experience of the body breathing. Maybe it's a pain or an itch, a sore muscle. Maybe it's something more subtle, like the sensation of the clothes on the body, the feet on the floor, the butt in the chair or cushion, some heat or coolness, maybe the feeling of relaxation or ease in the shoulders or back. There's no right or wrong here. There's nothing you should be experiencing, but resting in this receiving, this gentle openness, what arises in your experience? And just using the one word label of where in the body it is, and then tuning into it for a moment. So, for example, maybe you notice a pain in the knee arise, and you would note knee and tune into it for a few moments and open the awareness back up. And maybe you notice you can feel the clothes on your shoulders. You would note shoulders and tune in for a few moments and open the awareness back up, and so on. This is mindfulness of the body, noticing what's going on in our present time experience, bringing awareness to the physical body. And just for now, the actual physical sensations themselves, tuning into them, not our thoughts about them, not our judgments. When those come up, we can gently leave them be. And you can just continue to ask yourself, what's going on in the body right now? What can I feel in the body? When the mind wanders or gets lost, we can always come back to the breath as our anchor. It's one of the beautiful parts about practicing with the breath is it's always with us, always moving, creating sensations. So there's nothing wrong with coming back to the breath for a few deep breaths, just to center ourselves, open back up and ask what's going on in the body right now. And we're going to add in now this second foundation of mindfulness, noticing the feeling tone or Vedana of experience. Vedana is simply if something's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So, as something arises in the body, such as the pain in the knee, you may notice that you find it unpleasant. And just tuning into that and opening the awareness up again. The clothes on your shoulders may be neutral, and opening the awareness back up. And again, there's no right or wrong. You shouldn't necessarily find this experience pleasant and this one unpleasant. Going with your truth and your experience and your kind of gut instinct of how you find something. I often throw in a fourth option, which is I don't know or mixed. So just noting what arises in your experience, tuning into it, and whether you find it pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or maybe you don't know. Finally, adding in this third foundation of mindfulness, the mind's response, the mental response or reaction. And this may be more subtle than the actual physical sensation itself. But tuning into what the mind state is in reaction to the experience that's arising. So, taking the example of the pain in the knee, you tune into it and feel it. We notice that it's unpleasant, and the mental response is kind of a pulling away or not liking it. Or maybe the mind begins to think about moving the leg or fixing it. Maybe the mind thinks that we're old or out of shape. Maybe the mind responds with some form of apathy. Whatever. Again, there's no right or wrong here. This is your own truth and looking at your own experience. What's the mental response to this experience and feeling tone? Maybe you notice the clothes on your shoulders and it's neutral. The mental response is boredom or not interested. Really, anything goes. Just noting to yourself where there's an experience arising, what the Vedana is, and how the mind is responding. Remembering you can always return to the breath as your anchor. Taking a few deep breaths to arrive back in this present time experience. And really looking at what's going on in the body and how we relate to it.